We have been writing songs for this EP for years. I would say 3 years, maybe. We're gonna record some vocals. I'll sing into a microphone. We'll make a country song.
Sound like that?
Yeah.
Oh man.
We'll make a country song. We're screwed. I was gonna say we're gonna crush the shit out of some vocals.
Yeah.
I'm Jennica. Hello. We met Paul Rippey at a Lee Brice concert in San Antonio, Texas. It was much fun.
Assholes. I mean, just complete and utter assholes. But they had, you know, their checks were good, so I thought, we'll just keep it going.
He called us assholes. That's fair.
No, it was super nice people. I mean, like I said, we met at a big old country bar in San Antonio, Texas, and yeah, it just seemed like great people. It seemed like really serious people too when we were laughing, having fun, cracking up. But at the same time, you could tell they hadn't moved to Nashville yet, but they were already kind of gung ho on it and knew what they wanted to do and what they were going for, and it was great.
So one of the first things we talked about when we sat down with Paul was really wanting to avoid putting ourselves into a box or, you know, to adhere to these concepts of genre conventions or preconceived notions about what you should sound like as a country duo, or really what people thought that we should sound like even when we're, based out of Texas. So we just wanted to get rid of all of that noise and just make music that felt really good and mattered and emoted and, meant something to us.
And that was right up my alley, so I thought it was great to kind of do that and emphasize those different styles in there.
So through the course, the original line is kind of more like dum dum da dum dum da dum, and then you start doing the 4 on the floor. Like, I think it's a nice mix between the two. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I met Moonlight Social at the end of 2016 through a dear friend, Paul Rippey, who's an amazing bass player and was the bass player on the project we recorded here at Prime Recording. Moonlight Social is different, I think, than some of the Nashville country acts out there in their ability and willingness to take some risks on production and kind of pull out the stops and try some different things with their vocal blends that you don't see a lot of duos do.
Yeah, no, we're doing background vocals and we're hitting a couple little spots on some...
I remember early on when we sort of were talking about making a record together, I don't work exclusively or specifically in the country genre as much as I work in a lot of other varying genres. So I had a little bit of concern about being able to hopefully bring their idea to fruition. And as we talked about the process and what they wanted to achieve, and it sounded like they were interested in making a record that was just a little bit different than a traditional country record as well. And so I really was excited about that opportunity to work with them and try to scope something together.
So something like that is a little more bitey, and it's not quite as,
We met with Derek over lunch, and we immediately clicked just off of, the kind of music that we liked, the kind of music that we wanted to create. We had we had similar favorite albums that we were able to talk about, like just the way that they were put together and, the chances that people took on stuff. And we just immediately clicked. We knew that we were gonna, we found somebody who was gonna help us create exactly what we wanted to create and not try and put us in a box or be like, you need to sound like this or you need something like that.
What do we got? What do we got here?
You gotta stick your head in and listen to it.
Alright, I'll play this. Alright. Just kind of pointed.
Before we actually got into the studio, I did attend a pre-production sort of meeting with the guys out at Paul's house where they were doing some rehearsals, and that was a really great experience to kind of hear the whole band working together in synchronous and playing the tracks before we went in the studio, which you don't really get in Nashville a lot of times with session players, the ability to hear how it's going to come together beforehand.
Okay.
It was totally
me. I just, you know, you talking about screwing the puppy. That's exactly what I did. Right.
Tim did look at me and he said, "Follow me." I just couldn't figure it out.
There wasn't really a whole lot of things I would say that we did with the Moonlight Social record that I would call a traditional making of a record in some ways. Everything from sort of the early meetings we had where we never really talked a lot about money or budget. It was just more about how do we gel and hang together, to getting in the studio making a record, and they really tried their best not to put any restraints on what the record could become.
So we got this super gnarly tone on the guitar lick for Make You Smile that I think a lot of people were like, yeah, that's really cool. That's something that you don't hear a lot.
We were working on a song called Make You Smile, and I dug a rat guitar pedal out of one of my drawers of pedals that I haven't used since probably high school when I was in a punk rock band. So needless to say, it doesn't get a lot of play here in Nashville. But we came up with a really cool guitar part on that song that has a really big swagger to it.
Yeah, I think Make You Smile was great. I just think that's such a catchy, cool tune. It kind of reminds me of when I was younger and heard Weezer for the first time, but yet it's got such a different take. It kind of has this pop, punk kind of thing to it, but still fun and upbeat.
My favorite part of the song is after the little like bridge like turnaround, when it goes from the like broken down chorus like into the full chorus, and then right before the second chorus there are two claps. That's my favorite part.
I wanna make you smile if it takes all night. It ain't all okay, but it's alright.
And then Bad Side, there was just some really cool instrumental breaks that we threw in there coming in and out of the choruses with some real funky keyboard stuff that Michael Hughes was doing. That those two in particular stand out to me as just being a lot of fun going down and just kind of smiling the whole time. Yeah, so that instrumental break in Bad Side was one of those things that we came up with in pre-production. So just one of those examples that if you give yourself a few extra hours to mess with stuff and have fun and kind of make some musical mistakes, you might find some magic in those.
We were willing to take some risks on the production and really push the boundaries on some sound and textures, make some things a little more aggressive. There's a song that basically has a punk rock beat to it for the most part, and So Close, for instance, has kind of an epicness that's almost like an indie track that has this really huge anthemic ending to it, which is, you know, there's not a lot about the record that I would say is like straight up the line traditional country, but I do think there's a lot of really great things happening. We took another approach on vocals, for instance, where typically you go in, you put a singer in a booth, and you work through 5 takes, you comp it, and you move on. In this case, we actually had 2 rooms set up with 2 vocal mics where we were able to have, for instance, Jennica go in and work on her parts for a moment, and then Jeremy could go in and work on his at a separate time or at the same time. In fact, there were parts we recorded with them live together because that's part of their vocal blend, and how they're able to work together is to be able to put things side by side in real time and be able to make eye contact, be able to see each other as they're singing, because that's what they do live. And so we were able to kind of accommodate that opportunity and facilitate that for them.
We really have been, for the last several years, figuring out like who we are and what our sound is, and like this EP is our first foot forward basically since 2012 as Moonlight Social, as who we became.
I think this was a really important record for us to make personally. I think that it came during a pretty difficult time in our lives, you know, even before it, during it, after it. I think this was something that we really needed to make, and is really kind of, you know, this first big step in a direction towards us really defining ourselves and being whoever we are in that moment, and not being afraid to chase, you know, what that creates musically.